Greetings, Moonlight citizens. This is your man on the moon with another episode of Moonlight Kingdom Reviews. If that old ditty I just had didn't clue you in, we were going to be discussing a very interesting double feature on this episode of Moonlight Kingdom Reviews, folks. It's not just good, it's not just great, it's not just fantastic. It is a super fantastic double feature of Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps. Hell yeah, let's get into this one, folks, in 3, 2, 1. Boom. All right, as you know, in these reviews, before we actually get in the film itself, we get some background on the project itself, starting with Fantastic Four First Steps, directed by Matt Shackman, with a screenplay by Josh Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, Ian Springler, and such, a story by Eric Patterson, Jeff Kaplan, Ian Springer, based on the Fantastic Four comic book characters created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, produced by Kevin Feige, distributed by, you guessed it, Walt Disney Studios, and it's starring Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Eben Moss Backrack, Joseph Quinn, Julia Garner, Natasha Lyonne? Wow, I didn't notice. Paul Walter Hauser and Ralph Ineson. Oh yeah. Produced by the production company is Marvel Studios, with music by Michael Giacchino. You may recognize him as the man who did the music behind movies like Ratatouille and Up, and he also directed Werewolf by Night. The movie had a budget of well over $200 million and is at a box office of $521.9 million as of recording. Meanwhile, over on the DCU side of things, we got Superman 2025, previously Superman Legacy. Though for the purposes of, well, you understanding what exactly I'm talking about, the movie or the man, I'm going to call it Superman Legacy. So Superman Legacy, directed by James Gunn, written by James Gunn, based on characters from DC, produced by Peter Safran and James Gunn, starring David Cornsweet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Anthony Carrigan, Eddie Gathegi, Nathan Fillion, and Isabella Merced, with music by John Murphy and David Fleming, produced by DC Studios, Troll Court Entertainment, and the Safran Company, but distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. Came out in July of 2025. With a budget of $225 million, it makes in $616 million, which puts it just over $50 million shy of Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, which raked in $670 million. That's not a dig, I'm just stating facts, so just the facts, man. Just the facts. And now that's enough background. Let us get into the actual films themselves. Ladies, bros, and those, right here we are going to be reviewing first a non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review of Fantastic Four First Steps and Superman Legacy. Let's get into that. All right, now into the non-spoiler review. I'll have to give Superman Legacy a 7. Yeah, when I saw it, I just watched it and I give it a 7. The first time I saw it, beginning to end, I came out thinking, yeah, this is definitely a 7 out of 10 movie. I like how vibrant everything looks, how there's primary colors everywhere and there isn't just like this like beige or predominant, there isn't the one predominant character color over the screen. I liked a lot about the movies. The action sequences were really well done. The CGI, there was some moments where I'm like, hey, hang on, what the? But then there were other moments where it was like crystal clear and everything just worked. So I enjoyed that part of the movie. Yeah, the CGI held up. The acting in terms of the characters, it was, granted, it's not exactly what you would. Okay, the characters, it was good. Let me say that much. It was good, not bad. Nothing in the movie was quote unquote like, oh, this is terrible. This absolutely sucks. I give the movie a 7 because when I initially watched it, it was like, oh man, this is great. It's definitely an 8 out of 10. But it's one of those movies where if you stop and actually think about certain things, it's like, wait a minute, well, how, if that happens, then how does this happen? Or, hey, wait a minute, why didn't this just, it definitely bogs you down thinking of certain things, like not quite, I wouldn't call them plot holes, but it's like, just weird things that make you stop and go, wait, hang on, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was a very, I'm not going to say comic accurate because the version of Lex Luthor in the comics and the version of Lex Luthor we see here aren't like a one-to-one thing. So it's clear that he's, James Gunn wanted his version of Lex Luthor, his version of Superman, because this is very much a James Gunn movie. The characters in this movie are James Gunn as characters in that, it's a very James Gunn-like movie. Let me say this much about the movie. If you like James Gunn type films like Guardians of the Galaxy or what's this, Super, I think it was called, you'll, I don't know if it was just called Super, but I'm sure it's the one where Rainn Wilson is like a superhero, but he's not exactly 100% sane. Elliot Page is in it, as a sidekick, but like, yeah, I don't know. So if you like James Gunn's brand of humor, you're going to like this movie. If you don't, it's going to bother you. But, there are bright spots throughout the film. Like I said, the action is good. The story its moments. Actors like Nicholas Hoult really bring their all, really give their all in terms of the character. Lois Lane, like Rachel Brosnahan plays a good Lois Lane. She's really well done. It's a more faithful adaptation of Lois Lane in terms of the comics when you compare her with I can't remember her name, but she was Lois in the Snyderverse. It's a more, looking at the character, it is a more comic accurate representation, but updated for modern day. Let me just say this: with Superman Legacy, it's kind of like Superman Reborn, the Kevin Smith script that he read way back when, and before he pitched his idea of Superman. It's Superman. He's like, oh, why didn't you just call it Superman for like retooled for a modern audiences or something like that? So I'm just like, yeah, it's essentially, from my viewing, it's the Christopher Reeve Superman, but retooled for a modern audience and modern sensibilities. Not the quote unquote modern audience that guys like Critical Drinker go on about and what's his name, Movie Cynic. It's not like that kind of modern audiences. I mean modern audiences as in the kind of movie. It is a movie. It is like those Richard Donner Superman movies, but if it were made nowadays, what would that look like? It's kind of like, it's more in line with My Adventures with Superman than it is Superman the Animated Series. With how Clark is portrayed, with how the relationship with Lois is, with how various characters throughout the story are portrayed, it is more in line with more modern iterations of Superman than it is with past iterations of Superman, or it is at the very least a modern take on past iterations of Superman, as opposed to a one-to-one adaptation. This film isn't adapting any one Superman story or any existing Superman story. It is, as far as I can tell, and as far as what I've seen, a totally original creation from the mind of James Gunn himself, who's, the head of DC Studios with Peter Safran. So this movie needed to be a win. This is the big introduction into the Gods and Monsters phase of the DCU. So yeah, that movie did its job. It did what it needed to do. It served as an introduction to like to Superman. It served as okay. Let me get into some negatives about the movie while I'm still staying non-spoiler. This movie has its moments where it's good. Like I said, the fights are good. We get to see Superman use a thing I've wanted to see in a lot of Superman movies, not just Superman movies, but in superhero movies in general. Show me the hero in his element doing what he does best. And this movie gives us that, not just with Superman, but other characters too. So yeah, although to get into the negatives, like I remember I was watching the movie and I spoke to a friend of mine like while I was watching the movie, and it's like one of the things I said about the film while I was watching it was, I've been watching this for an hour. It's like I'm an hour and 3 minutes into the movie, and I just now found something funny. That's saying something in terms of, which is really, it says something about the film in terms of the kind of jokes it throws out, because it's like, yeah, there's jokes every few minutes and so on, but there's jokes every 10 minutes. There's a joke. Let me say it felt like that. Every 10 minutes that went by, a joke would happen, or every 5 minutes that went by, there was a joke would happen. I said like I remember writing when I was watching the movie. While I was watching the movie, I sent a message to a friend that I'm 35 minutes into Superman Legacy, and it feels like the film is trying to annoy me. Like, yeah, that's what it felt 30 minutes in. And the message I sent after that was, the movie is full of jokes, but it took 1 hour and 3 minutes for something actually funny to happen. And that's the problem of, jokes every few minutes. Not all the jokes are going to land, and not all the jokes even work. And it's like, this character, Superman as a character, was never a character that was known to be jokey. He's not a quippy dude. Like, he'll have moments where it's like, he'll throw a line out or say something that, when the situation's been taken care of, he'll say something to like kind of sass the villain in a way to show that he could say jokes if he wanted to, but, he just doesn't because the seriousness of the situation calls for it. So yeah, there's a scene in the trailer where Mr. Terrific yells at Superman to say, like, quit messing around, quit messing around, like, get up here. And Superman responds, I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff here. Like, personally, when I saw that out of the context of the film, I saw that and I thought, like, nah, man, Superman wouldn't do that. Superman would not. There would be moments where I'm like, yeah, man, Superman would not do that. He wouldn't be like, I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff. Like, bro, like, that's understandable if this version of Superman is in like his early 20s and this is his first big outing as a superhero. But this dude isn't in his 20s. This dude is in his 30s, and the movie establishes that he's been Superman for at least 3 years now. So personally, if Superman got knocked down and he's laying there in the crater and someone's like, come on, man, get up. This ain't no time to play around. He wouldn't say I'm not playing around. I'm doing important stuff. He would be like, just give me a minute. Let me catch my breath and I'll get back into it. All right. Like, let me get back in this. Let me lock back in. Something like that. He wouldn't say that verbatim, but he would say something to that effect. And the fact that the character was played like that, a typical James Gunn protagonist in a way, like, it's just, the movie leaned too much into humor in some places. That's one of the downsides to it. It leaned too much into humor. There were points where the movie was more concerned with being funny than it did making sense with the world that it had set up. So it's like, also there were parts of the movie that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I'll get into this in the non-spoiler review, but yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about Superman Legacy in terms of non-spoiler reviews. And now onto Fantastic Four. First Steps. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the movie. The movie is a 7 out of 10, no doubt. The characters were good. The fighting was good. The visuals I enjoyed. I enjoyed a lot. There's a lot to like about this movie as it stands. And I went into this movie I didn't want to hate it, but I went to this movie, there was a level of negativity still in there. Even though I feel like I let some of it go, there was some negativity in there, because like I did enjoy the Snyderverse, and I'm like, okay, let's see. I like when I found out they were rebooting the character, and there were some reservations for me when I found out they were rebooting the character. It's like I didn't want it because I was still very much on that restore the Snyderverse train. I was, in a way, it's like, there was so much. I was feeling like we were on the cusp of greatness, yo, an age of marvels with this. It's that line from Marvel Ruins, the cusp of greatness and age of marvels, and like we could have given a. Not that I hate Man of Steel, I love Man of Steel. It is, my favorite Superman movie. Not to disrespect Christopher Reeve Superman or any other ones. It's just the one that I haven't seen it the most, but it's the one that I enjoy seeing more than the others, and Superman Legacy is up there with the movie. It's behind Christopher Reeve though, but I really enjoyed Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. I enjoyed that movie, contrary to what other people say. I love the big Dragon Ball Z fight at the end that he had with Zod, where they're like trashing the city and everything. And this movie, it felt more like a response to that movie as opposed to like this movie feels like this is what a Superman movie should look like. I remember even, that's what I ended up saying while watching the movie. There's a scene in that movie where Superman was using his powers and he was taking on these, enemies. And I thought I felt good watching the movie. This movie made me feel something. It made me feel good watching it. Not like inspired to do more or anything like that, but it's like you can see how Superman is this symbol of hope and this inspirational figure. So to have that moment in the movie come in, and I'm thinking, after everything I've witnessed, I felt, and I even said out loud, like, this is what a Superman movie should be. If you boil the character down to his base elements and you like made a movie on that and you put in your stuff on top of that, it would come out something like this. This is a James Gunn Superman film. So yeah, I gotta give the movie its props in that regard. There was a moment where I thought to myself, this is what a Superman movie should be. So, like if you wanted to do Superman from the comics and you wanted it to be the symbol of hope and all that, and you wanted it to be like, yeah, there was a moment where I thought this is what a Superman movie should be. And I felt something watching that movie. So yeah, there were some negative moments. I'm going to get into that more in the non-spoiler version. But yeah, on to Fantastic Four First Steps. Yeah, baby, yeah. I gave Superman Legacy a 7. But Fantastic Four First Steps, I can honestly say, bro, this is an 8 out of 10 right here. 8. Nice, simple number, man. 8. It wasn't a 10 out of 10 movie, but like, my rating goes like this. A movie starts at like really high and then it works its way down. Where it stays, that's the number that I hold on to. Like I give this movie a 10 out of 10. There's no this thing about like, I'll give a movie a rating and then like after thinking about it, I'll raise the rating. Like, nah. If after thinking about it, I like enjoy the movie, that movie earned the rating I initially gave it. If I lower the rating, it's because I sat on the movie. I watched the movie. I sat on it a little bit, and it's like, there was really some stuff I didn't like. Yeah. But this movie, there wasn't none of that. There wasn't no. I wasn't really feeling this part of the movie. It's unlike Superman Legacy in that way because, this movie, both these films are a way to introduce previously, characters that people have tried already. People have introduced these characters already in other movies. We don't really need to delve too deep into their origins, But unlike Superman Legacy, this movie does touch on the Fantastic Four's origins. It doesn't work off the basis of, you know who this guy is. I don't need to explain all that. I don't need to explain his backstory. Let's just get into the thing. No, it's like the movie knows that you know who these people are, you know their story, but it doesn't just ignore their origin. It like quickly gives you a little summary like, here's the Fantastic Four, here's what they do, here's what they were like before they got their powers, and here's like, a very short snippet of them getting their powers. And it also has the give me the hero in his element doing what they do best. It get a montage of the Fantastic Four saving the day. They were stopping red apes. They were fighting the mole man. They were fighting this giant moloid. It's just, there was all this stuff like straight up is from the original. And that picture where they were fighting the moloid, it looked like a shot straight out of their first big comic book. And it was nice, man. I really enjoyed seeing that montage. So yeah, the movie started off right off the right foot, and the music was really good, and it was just so like upbeat and like it's straight out of the trailer. It's like bum 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 bum. Like the movie and the mood that it's trying to set in terms of the music and how it plays out is designed to like make you feel good, then better, and then way better. Like it's like this movie wants you to enjoy it, and it's playing. It plays it serious. It knows when this is a serious moment. There's no room for jokes here. We are deadly serious in this moment. We need to seriously, like I said serious so many times. We need to focus. We need to lock in. We can't joke around. We can't showboat. We can't play around here. And it really did it did an amazing job. It is a great adaptation of the Fantastic Four story. Here Comes Galactus, I think it is, or Enter Galactus, or like I don't know, but like the one where Galactus comes to Earth and wants to destroy the planet. I liked it. This was a pretty good adaptation of that story, better than the Sim story, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. And there's a lot to like about this movie. I was initially hesitant about the casting of Pedro Pascal because it was like, man, he's in everything. He's everywhere. He's in Gladiator. He's in that movie with Dakota Johnson where she leaves the rich guy for the bummy Chris Evans. He's in everything. It's like, man, he's in The Last of Us. I'm getting kind of tired of seeing Pedro Pascal in things, bro. He's everywhere. I get it. You're a hardworking actor. You did everything in your power to get to where you are, and you deserve, not deserve, but you've earned the right to enjoy some of that. You've earned the recognition you're getting. But holy soap, man, you're in everything. It seems he's everywhere. But yeah, that was the initial thing. But his portrayal of Reed Richards was very well done. I'll give it that much. And he actually felt like a dude from this period, with the way he spoke, the way he carried himself. It didn't feel like Pedro Pascal, like just playing Pedro Pascal, or Pedro Pascal doing a version of his character from Game of Thrones. It actually felt like he was playing Reed Richards in this moment. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm did an amazing job. She was amazing in the role. And throughout the film, it felt a lot like she was the leader of the Fantastic Four. Even in that trailer, when I first saw that trailer where Shalabal comes down, Silver Surfer, and she asks, "Are you the defenders of this world?" She's the one who says yes, and Reed looks at her like, "Huh?" I mean, they are, but the way he looks at her like, why are you responding? Why are you responding like that? Why do you respond so quick? Like, yeah, it's like, because he's looking at her like, yeah, but the way Sue Storm reacted was like, yes, we are this world, and I like the way this character was written because it could have been so easy to just turn her into another girl boss character, to make her the real leader of the team, make her like the real genius who helps everybody figure everything out, and like they would be totally lost without her. You get the sense that they would be lost without her, but not like that, because if any one member of the Fantastic Four was taken out of the equation, the team would be lost because they're family. They work together so efficiently, and I like that this movie showed the Fantastic Four as a family. They're not the Avengers. They're not co-workers. They are functioning together like a family unit. Reed and Sue are the mom, and Ben and Johnny are like the two uncles. Although Johnny in this one scene did give off gay uncle vibes. Nothing against the man himself. It's just like, he's the way, like, I don't know what it was, man. Seeing that one scene where, like, they find out that Sue is pregnant, he gave me gay uncle vibes, like, I don't know. Him and Ben Grimm were kind of like Cam and Mitch from Modern Family, and I liked it, it wasn't something you would normally, see. Normally these two would have beef with each other. Johnny was kind of a menace and he was like making Ben's life, he was irritating him. And like, Ben got his now and then, but like every version of Fantastic Four before this one, it was kind of like that, except for that Fantastic movie. Because in the cartoon, Ben and Johnny had beef. In the original movie, Ben and Johnny had beef. Not, the Tim Story movie, that first Tim Story movie, he would like prank him a little bit. And, it was stuff like that, childish pranks and little jokes, things like that. There was this like sibling rivalry between them. It was like a sibling rivalry, and they've, but now like that's done away with. It's like, hey, we're all adults here. We all live in the same building. We know how to coexist, but we coexist in a way a family unit does, because that's what we are. When we're all together, we're family, and nothing will tear apart that bond. Whatever problems we face, we are going to face them together as a family. Like, yeah, Fantastic Four First Steps. Man, bust out the Fast and Furious memes, because what this movie's about overall, it's about family. Yeah, baby, yeah. That was awesome. That's what's up. I love this movie, man. An 8 out of 10 indeed, I give this movie. The music was great. I liked how colorful and vibrant everything looked instead of like the usual. There's like a weird, I don't know, beige look to earlier MCU projects, like other projects. It felt like they were filmed for streaming as opposed to like filmed for the movies, and I loved how vibrant their uniforms were, how clean they looked. Initially, I wasn't feeling like the whole sweater look. It looked like they were wearing like big sweaters and stuff, but it is fitting with the time that the film is set in. And, given I love the whole retro futuristic 70s vibe that the movie got going on. It really is, it works to the strengths of this movie. And that this is a story disconnected from the MCU actually works in its favor. It doesn't have any baggage that it has to worry about dragging in behind it. And it doesn't have anything huge to set up. It's a disconnected story. Basically, the fact that this movie was disconnected actually made it better because it raised the stakes. Because you knew, like, damn, the heroes might lose. They could actually lose. Because if they were attached to the mainline MCU and this was set in like present day instead of the 70s, they're not going to lose. Also, it being set in the present day would lead to the question of where are the Avengers? Where's Hulk? Where's Falcon? Where's Hawkeye? Where's them? So setting it in the 70s in an alternate reality and the Fantastic Four are the main heroes in place of the Avengers was a good move. I applaud that 100%. So yeah, this movie has so much going on. The portrayal of Galactus was worlds away from his initial appearance as a damn space cloud. I liked not Vanessa Kirby. Is it Vanessa Kirby? That actress, she was in the movie Weapons. Her portrayal of Shalabal was pretty good. Granted, it wasn't, there was like a moment, there were two moments where it seemed like she was conflicted of what she was doing, but deep down she could rationalize it by saying, I'm fighting to help my world. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm helping Galactus find these planets. So my world doesn't have to be the one that goes out. And, it's the Silver Surfer thing eventually. Silver Surfer, as he does in the comics, turns on Galactus and helps the Fantastic Four beat Galactus. This movie's Silver Surfer wasn't necessarily a patch on Lawrence Fisher's Silver Surfer from Rise of the Silver Surfer, but it wasn't supposed to be. Her job was she was a herald of Galactus, and you definitely got that vibe. He's like, I'm just here to signal your doom. That is my job. That is my purpose. I go from planet to planet and I give the people a heads up like, hey, hang on to your loved ones, tell them everything you wish to tell them, and, die with your own. Basically, that's what she says to Johnny at one point. Like, I'm giving you a heads up. Everything is coming to an end. There's nothing you can do about it. Just, pray, get together with loved ones, and wish them a goodbye. I'm giving you a chance to say goodbye. That's what she was here for. And we witnessed the awesome power of the Silver Surfer. We witnessed what she was fully capable of on that board in like the chase sequences with the Fantastic Four. When she used her power of cosmic, we saw what she could do, and it was very well done. There's a lot of good to say about this movie. There's a lot to enjoy in this movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. I would absolutely recommend this movie. It's good for it's so many good things. I would rewatch it too. I wouldn't just recommend it, but I would also rewatch it. It's a fun watch. So yeah, those have been the non-spoiler reviews of Super Fantastic double feature that is Superman Legacy and Fantastic Four First Steps. Superman Legacy getting a 7 out of 10 with Fantastic Four First Steps getting a 8 out of 10. Ladies and gentlemen, I enjoyed both these films. That was the non-spoiler review. So one of the films had more flaws than the other. Both films had something going for them that stopped them from being perfect. But overall, as a wondrous double feature, these movies work as a double feature and they work pretty well. Last time it was Barbenheimer, and last time I did a double feature, it was Camp Hell, and I think it was The Exorcist Believer, Religious Horror, and now it's a sci-fi superhero stories. So yeah, this movie works. Fantastic Four works as a movie Fantastic Four works, and Superman Legacy works. So many things. These movies got so many things going for them. They got so many things working against them. Both these movies had a predecessor that they had to do better than in order to be seen as better than the predecessor in the eyes of ardent fans. Granted, Fantastic Four First Steps had an easier job, given that no one really liked 100% of Fantastic. So yeah, and it is what it is. Now, Superman Legacy is, in my opinion, not a better movie than Man of Steel. That's just my opinion. But Fantastic Four First Steps is leagues and miles ahead of Fantastic. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. That was the non-spoiler review for Fantastic Four First Steps and Superman 2025. This has been another episode of Moonlight Kingdom Reviews. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all them nice things. I've been your host, the man on the moon, your Moonlight King, and we have just finished the non-spoiler review of Fantastic Four First Steps and Superman 2025, or as I would prefer to call it, Superman Legacy. The spoiler review will be coming very soon, so be on the lookout for that. Stay safe out there, and remember, we are who we are. No point arguing with ourselves or anyone else about it.